In a realm where one's strength was determined by the divine blessings they received, a young boy named Heis had once dreamed of becoming a great adventurer. He had made a promise with his childhood friend, Saha, that the two of them would one day become the strongest team and help others together. At the blessing ceremony, it was said that Saha received the blessing of the Swordmaster. Heis had congratulated her, expressing confidence that he too would receive an amazing blessing so they could go on adventures side by side. Saha had replied warmly, saying that they were now one step closer to their dream. However, when Heis received his blessing, confusion spread among the onlookers. Even Guildmaster Geist had admitted that he didn't recognize it. Heis had been given the title Weapon Master, a term no one else had ever heard of. When he had asked Geist what it meant, Geist had no answers to offer. Thus, Heis's blessing remained unknown. 2 years had passed, and Heis still didn't understand the nature of his blessing. Despite this, he and Saha remained in the same adventuring team, Sacred Leader. But with no visible powers, Heis had been relegated to carrying the team's luggage. It was reported that at one point, Reynold had asked Saha if she had made up her mind about something, and she had replied that she had. During a mission, Saha had explained the plan and told Heis to wait behind while the others went to fight a queen cobra. Heis had watched in amazement as Saha and the others easily defeated the monster using their blessings. One of the team members had nearly been struck during the fight, prompting Saha to save him and scold Heis, telling him not to get in her way. After the battle, Heis had been left to clean up and pick up supplies. Among the remains, he had found a strange book. When he opened it, he had felt the same mysterious sensation he had experienced when he received his blessing. Later, Saha and the team had approached Heis and told him he should leave the team. Shocked, Heis had reminded Saha of the promise they once made. Saha had said she hadn't forgotten, but that the team was close to being promoted to an A rank, and keeping him would only drag them down. She had handed him some money and apologized. Heis had left the team, angry and heartbroken. He had declared that he wouldn't give up, and that he would never become an adventurer who threw away the weak just to climb higher. Even though some former teammates had shown signs of regret, they hadn't intervened. Over the following 2 months, Heis had taken on missions by himself, eventually defeating 20 goblins in a single day. Despite his accomplishments, people continued to speak poorly of him. One day, Saha had passed along a message through others, telling Heis about a location where white clover flowers were blooming. Knowing these flowers were rare and valuable, Heis had gone there, touched by the gesture. At the field, Heis had admired the beauty of the land and even felt grateful. However, everything had suddenly gone dark. When he turned around, he had seen a black dragon. The ancient black dragon, an SS plus rank monster. The beast had slashed Heis's right eye. Believing Saha had sent him there to die, Heis had cried out that he didn't want to die. At that moment, when he touched the mysterious book once again, something had awakened in him. He had instinctively known how to use the weapon it revealed, an M79 grenade launcher. With a single shot, he had slain the dragon. Heis had finally understood his blessing. It wasn't a traditional power, it was a mastery of legendary and unknown weapons from another world. But even in triumph, his heart had burned with anger and betrayal. He believed Saha had truly meant to get rid of him. Back at the guild, Saha and her team had gone to meet Guildmaster Geist. When Geist had heard about the location Saha had sent Heis to, he had been shocked. He had explained that the area was known as the lair of an SS plus rank monster. Suddenly, someone had rushed in to report an emergency. A new S-rank adventurer had appeared. The adventurers and guild members had gathered to witness Heiss arriving, holding the severed head of the Black Dragon. The crowd had been stunned. Heiss had looked directly at Saha and asked if she had truly hated him so much that she had wanted him dead. Saha had appeared confused, but Heiss hadn't waited for an explanation. He had told her that he would never forgive her, that he would no longer trust people like her, and that he had become strong on his own. Soon after his dramatic declaration, Heiss had collapsed from exhaustion. 2 years had passed. Heiss returned to an inn where he was staying for another month, breakfast included. By now, he had already risen to the rank of S-rank adventurer. The innkeeper, surprised to see someone of his level staying in such a modest place, asked, "You're an S-rank now, aren't you? Why would someone like you still stay here?" Heiss replied simply, "Because no one expects an S-rank to be here." Later, the old innkeeper was seen reading a newspaper that featured Sasha. She too had become an S-rank. Her clan was now overwhelmed with applications. At the Adventurers Guild, Geist invited Heiss in, congratulating him for having single-handedly defeated a mithril ogre, an S-rank monster. Heiss responded with quiet humility, "You taught me well." Geist went on to explain the ranking system, from F to SSS rank, and presented Heiss with an invitation to the upcoming S-rank adventurer ceremony. Geist shared that the ceremony was hosted by the royal family, and that the very first S-rank in history had been the founding king of the nation. He then asked Heiss, "Haven't you ever considered forgiving Sasha?" Heiss shook his head. I can't. I can never forgive her." Geist tried to explain the reason behind Sasha's actions and why she had pushed Heiss out. But Heiss, visibly angry, interrupted him. Even if there was a reason, she shouldn't have said what she did. Geist tried to reason with him. "There's no way she really meant it, but I know. That doesn't change the fact that she kicked you out." Heiss responded with a calm but firm tone. "I'm not even against the idea of throwing away the weak. I get it, that's how you become the strongest team. But I'll walk my own path. I don't need them." With that, Heiss left. Months later, at the royal palace, both Heiss and Sasha had been summoned and were kneeling before the king of Highbelk. The king issued them formal requests on behalf of the kingdom. The first prince briefed Sasha on her mission, to defeat crystal golems that had suddenly appeared in the crystal mines. He would accompany her. Sasha, humbly, accepted. When it was Heiss's turn, he was tasked with gathering eternal moongrass, a rare herb used to make spirit elixirs. The first princess offered to accompany him, but Heiss declined, surprising everyone. The princess asked, "Why not?" Heiss explained, "That area is full of monsters. If I have to protect you, I won't be able to focus on the mission." The princess, somewhat insulted, countered, "Didn't your team also get in your way?" Heiss responded sharply, "I work alone." Sasha looked visibly upset upon hearing that. Heiss then turned to the king, "Please allow me to go alone." The king, impressed, agreed. He spoke of Heiss's achievements, all completed solo, and expressed his admiration. The princess protested. It was to be her first adventure, but the king firmly refused her involvement. At the dinner party that evening, the king remarked to Geist how he liked Heiss's straightforward way of speaking. Geist was stunned by the compliment. Later that night, Geist approached Heiss. "No one's going to be watching your back out there. What's your plan?" Heiss replied, "To keep getting stronger, and I still haven't deciphered much of that ancient book yet." He then excused himself, saying he was heading home. As Heiss was leaving the palace, Sasha stopped him, requesting to speak with him, just the two of them. But Heiss coldly replied that he had nothing to say. Sasha said she wanted to apologize. Heiss laughed bitterly. "Now you want to apologize? You had 2 whole years. You didn't even try on the day I nearly died." He continued, "You all left for a mission, knowing what happened. Don't pretend this apology means anything now. You never planned to apologize in the first place. Sasha explained, I just wanted to protect you. And our dream. But Heiss interrupted. What's the point in calling it our dream? If only you were living in it. It was always just your dream. Don't use me as an excuse. Sasha began to cry. But Heiss, unmoved, said, My dream is to become the strongest with my own strength. I'll never throw away the weak like you did. Whatever reason you had. When you kicked me out, you also kicked away the dream we shared. Sasha stood frozen as Heiss walked away. We can never go back to how things were. In the mystical forest nation of Igdora, there grows a rare herb known as eternal moongrass. Its defining trait? It glows with an ethereal light. This elusive plant only grows at the very peak of Mount Gagazia, deep within the sacred lands of the forest. It's a crucial ingredient in powerful elixirs, making it highly sought after, but nearly impossible to obtain. We begin with Heiss, a powerful solo adventurer, sitting in his room surrounded by magical artifacts and gear. He heads to the guild to meet Geist, the guild master. But Geist is busy talking to Sasha, so Heiss waits. Checking the mission board, he sees nothing higher than a B-rank quest. Then, a surprising figure enters. An elf. Elves are incredibly rare, outside their own lands, and even Heiss is shocked. The elf notices his expression and asks, Are we really that uncommon here? Heiss replies, It's rare to see elves leave their nation, so no, we don't see them often. She nods. This is her first day here. She explains she traveled west and ended up in this central region. She's also an adventurer, and shows Heiss her B-rank card. He asks if she has a party, but she confidently says she doesn't need one. She's strong enough to handle things alone. That strikes a chord with Heiss. It's rare to meet someone who mirrors his mindset. When she asks about his rank, Heiss reveals his S-rank card. She's surprised. Solo S-rank adventurers are even rarer. Curious, she asks about the quest he's interested in. When he mentions Igdora, she's stunned. You're heading into Igdora? She asks. Heiss quickly brushes it off and tells her to forget she heard anything. Soon after, Geist becomes available, and Heiss speaks to him privately. Sasha lingers for a moment, hesitating. Heiss guesses she, too, came to ask about the royal quest, but says nothing more and heads inside. Geist explains the quest, an SS+ rank mission involving Mount Gagazia. He gives Heiss crucial information about the task, including insight into the powerful clans of the world. Geist hands him a letter and tells him to deliver it to the leader of the Yggdrasil clan. It will help him on his mission. Heiss then asks if Geist knows the masters of the 4 great clans. Geist responds, After 40 years as an adventurer, you meet them, one way or another. With that, Heiss sets off. Outside the royal capital, Heiss senses danger. He fires a bullet at the source, but no one is there. He warns, the next one won't miss. And then, someone steps out. It's the elf from the guild. Heiss, surprised, asks why she's following him. She says she has a favor to ask. He coldly replies, bother someone else. But she insists. It has to be you. She explains that she's trying to save her sister, who's gravely ill. The eternal moongrass is the last ingredient she needs. She has everything else, but only Heiss can reach the mountain. Heiss asks, how do you know so much about my mission? She admits she overheard his conversation with Geist, thanks to her blessing, the ability to communicate with spirits. She pleads with him to let her accompany him until they reach the sacred mountain. If I die, just leave my body, she says. And if I find the moongrass, I'll give you all my money. Heiss agrees, with one condition. They're not teammates. If she gets in trouble, she's on her own. As they travel, they fend off multiple goblins. The elf is curious about Heiss's weapon. "Is that your blessing?" she asks. Heiss confirms. His blessing is weapon mastery. He can summon weapons from other worlds. So far, he's unlocked 4. She tells him more about her blessing, revealing how she overheard the guildmaster through her spirit magic. That night, they set up camp. She's amazed by how many supplies Heiss has stored in his ring. He gives her food, and she's surprised by how delicious it is. Heiss reveals that he used to do all the cooking and chores himself. Touched, the elf thanks him sincerely. She now has a real chance to save her sister. She offers to take the night watch as thanks. As Heiss watches her, he feels a sense of nostalgia. Eventually, they reach the Yggdrasil clan, one of the 4 great clans. The elf is visibly excited and explains the significance of each clan to Heiss. At the main gate, Heiss presents his royal quest certificate. The guard is shocked and immediately gives Heiss an entrance pass. When Heiss also shows Geist's letter, the guard is stunned again and asks him to wait. Soon, an elderly man arrives and apologizes for the wait. He escorts Heiss to the clan's master. The elf girl warns, "Don't make her angry," before Heiss leaves with the old man. Using an elevator, they head deeper into the stronghold, arriving at a mysterious sanctuary. The old man announces, "This is meeting with clan leader Ibis." Upon entering the clan hall, Heiss was greeted by the clan leader, Ibis, an elf, much to his surprise. He hadn't expected the clan leader to share his own heritage. Ibis acknowledged Heiss and mentioned having read a letter sent by Geist. In the letter, Geist had requested Ibis to assist Heiss. This made Heiss feel slightly awkward. Noticing his reaction, Ibis remarked with a knowing smile, "Sounds like he hit the nail on the head, you cheeky little brat." Ibis seemed to feel a sense of nostalgia around Heiss. She commented on the faint scent of gunpowder lingering around him. Heiss was stunned to realize that she could recognize it. Ibis explained that she once had a teammate who used firearms. When Heiss asked if she knew anything about the mysterious book he carried, Ibis was visibly shocked upon seeing it. She remarked, "To think this thing is still around," and explained that the book once belonged to someone named Nobunaga, an individual from another world. Although she opened the book, she couldn't read its contents. When Heiss asked if she had any idea what was written inside, Ibis admitted she had no clue. Nobunaga had never revealed its contents to her either. Heiss then mentioned that he could understand a few words. However, upon opening the book again, he was shocked to discover he could now read even more of it. Ibis, intrigued, asked him to share what it said. Heiss hesitated, saying, "Please, take no offense, but—" He then revealed that the writings described Nobunaga's thoughts about Ibis, particularly her behavior when he didn't pay attention to her. Embarrassed, Heiss asked if they were lovers or something similar. Red-faced and flustered, Ibis shouted, "That's enough for today. If you need help, come back another time." Heiss quickly exited the room, both embarrassed and puzzled by the fact that he could now read more of the book than before. Expedition Report, Summit of Mount Gagazia. Heiss and Priscilla continued their ascent toward the summit of Mount Gagazia. As they neared the peak, the fog began to thicken, reducing visibility. Suddenly, a monster emerged from behind Priscilla. Caught off guard, she was about to be attacked, but Heiss swiftly eliminated the threat using his weapon. Priscilla was astonished by how effortlessly Heiss defeated an S-rank monster. Heiss explained, "This creature hunts using the fog. Stay alert." Confused by his help, Priscilla asked, "We're not a team. Why help me?" Heiss responded, "Don't you want to save your sister? I'm under no obligation to save you, but I also have no reason not to help your sister." Grateful, Priscilla thanked him. Just then, a dragon was sighted soaring overhead. Priscilla guessed it had left the area to hunt and declared it the perfect time to collect eternal moongrass. She rushed ahead, promising to return shortly and reward Heiss afterward. Heiss warned her to wait. "You're underestimating the dragon. They're extremely territorial. They'll come back." Despite his warning, Priscilla entered the dragon's domain. As expected, numerous monsters began to swarm Heiss. Meanwhile, Priscilla reached the targeted location, but was shocked to discover that there wasn't a single eternal moongrass plant left. Her expression turned to despair. Without the herb, she couldn't craft the elixir needed to awaken her sister. At that moment, an SS plus rank monster appeared and began advancing toward Priscilla. A colossal dragon loomed over Priscilla, moments away from launching its attack. But Priscilla stood her ground, readying her bow and releasing a volley of spiritual energy to distract the beast, just enough to make her escape. However, her attacks had no effect. The dragon unleashed a deafening sonic roar that shattered the air, then lashed out its grotesque tongue, wrapping it around Priscilla and dragging her toward its massive jaws. She was seconds away from being devoured. But suddenly, an explosion rocked the creature's tongue, freeing Priscilla. Flames blazed through the air. It was Heiss. He'd arrived just in time, and he wasn't happy. He scolded Priscilla for not listening to him earlier and told her to stay back. Then he drew his gun and opened fire. But even his bullets couldn't pierce the dragon's hide. With no other option, Heiss pulled out his most powerful weapon, the very one he once used to slay the black dragon. With a single devastating shot, Heiss took the beast down. Priscilla stood in awe, shocked that Heiss could kill a dragon so effortlessly. Blushing, she asked why he had come for her. Heiss simply replied, "Let's go. It's starting to smell." But before they could leave, something strange caught their eye. The field around them was glowing. They had found it, eternal moongrass, a rare and powerful herb. However, it was dying, poisoned by the dragon's blood. Priscilla was devastated, but Heiss spotted one last surviving stalk. Priscilla sprinted over, carefully placing the moongrass in a jar to preserve it. Then, unexpectedly, she handed it to Heiss. "You're the one who brought down that dragon. You deserve this," she said. "I'll find more somewhere else." That act completed Heiss's original request. As they reached the mountain path's entrance, a group of elves appeared, searching for Priscilla. Among them was Adra, who scolded Priscilla for leaving without notice. Then Adra saw Heiss and recognized him. "You must be the S-rank adventurer, Heiss," she said. "You're the one who brought Priscilla here." She revealed her identity as the younger sister of Queen Alcera, the ruler of the forest kingdom of Igdora. Priscilla, it turned out, wasn't just any elf. She was royalty. Adra demanded to know whether she had found the eternal moongrass. But Priscilla remained silent. Adra pressed again, prompting Priscilla to shout, "So you wanted me to let my sister die instead?" Adra quickly apologized. "It's not what I meant. It's just, Alcera's fate may already be sealed." She then asked Priscilla to return home, reminding her they had to discuss the terms of her marriage. Priscilla hesitated, and in that moment, Heiss quietly walked away. Priscilla was stunned. Later, we see her beside her sister's bedside, crying, convinced she'd failed. But Alcera smiled gently. "It's all right. This is my destiny," she said, asking Priscilla to tell her about her travels across the western and central lands. As they spoke, Priscilla handed her sister the souvenirs she'd collected on her journey. Then, to her shock, she noticed something. The eternal moongrass. The very same one she had given to Heiss. Priscilla burst into tears. Somehow, Heiss had returned it to her. A few days later, we catch up with Heiss and his companion, Geist. Geist couldn't believe it. Heiss had failed a royal request and turned down a princess. "What are you going to do now?" Geist asked. Heiss shrugged. "Same old stuff. Except requests, clear dungeons." Geist had one more job for him. A new dungeon had been discovered, and it needed to be investigated. Just as Heiss was about to leave, someone called out his name. It was Priscilla. She smiled warmly and said, "I managed to make the cure. My sister has recovered and resumed her royal duties. I owe you. Big time." As a reward for saving the queen, Priscilla had been granted freedom to travel however she wished. Now, she wanted to repay Heiss for everything. "I'm not asking to be teammates or anything," she said, "but I'd gladly be your buddy if you'd let me." But Heiss turned and walked away without a word. Priscilla simply smiled and called out, "Then at least have a meal with me sometime." A few days later, the story shifts again. we see Sasha and her not-so-elite party, loser team, gearing up for their next royal quest. Sasha and her team finally reached the crystal mines. Before entering, Sasha explained their plan once again. To break through the crystal golem's tough body, they needed to significantly boost the power of their attack. The plan began with Cress using his double ability to create a duplicate of Sasha. Then Manga would enhance Robin's arrows with explosive magic. Once the arrows struck the golem, Sasha would follow up with a direct assault. She made it clear that she'd be relying on everyone for cover. Once the preparations were complete, the team ventured into the mine. Inside, they saw countless glowing crystals and high-quality ore embedded in the walls. After some time exploring, they encountered the crystal golems. There were 7 in total, 5 patrolling the area, and 2 standing guard deeper inside, near the crystal processing zone. One of Sasha's teammates observed something strange. The golems' movements were far too coordinated. Normally, golems, mutated from ore or stone, were supposed to be simple and mindless. This level of behavior hinted at something more intelligent controlling them. When the teammate asked Sasha what they should do, she replied that they would stick to the plan. As planned, Cress cast his double spell, and Manga added explosive magic to Robin's arrows. With the initial attack launched, Sasha struck swiftly and destroyed the golems with ease. The battle ended quickly, leaving the others in awe of Sasha's overwhelming strength. However, just as they began to lower their guard, Sasha sensed a dark, ominous aura coming from deeper inside the mine. She told the others it didn't feel like another golem and warned them to stay alert as they moved forward. In the crystal processing area, they encountered a goblin-like figure. But it was clear he was not a goblin. The creature praised Sasha for making it that far, claiming he had sensed her presence. When Sasha demanded to know who he was, he introduced himself as Crane, a demon. One of Sasha's teammates shouted in alarm, recognizing him as a demon. Crane confirmed it, and explained that his kind had once fought a great war against humanity long ago. That war had ended when a powerful man split the continent in 2, one half for humans and the other for demons. According to Crane, no one was supposed to be able to cross between realms. When Sasha asked how he had managed to cross over, Crane praised her intelligence, saying she already understood what demons were capable of. Mr. Glasses, one of her teammates, urgently told Sasha they needed to retreat. He reminded the team that during the Great War, demons had only numbered a few thousand while humans were in the tens of thousands. Yet they had still posed a massive threat due to their individual strength. Crane seemed pleased by the recognition. He offered to let them go this time, claiming he had already secured the high-purity crystal he came for. When Sasha asked about his intentions, Crane told her she wouldn't understand even if he explained. He warned the team to leave immediately or be killed, calling all humans insects in the eyes of demons. At that moment, Sasha slashed the high-purity crystal. Enraged, Crane demanded to know what she was doing. Sasha replied coldly that an insect had found its way into the kingdom of Hellbelk, and she was simply exterminating it. With that, Sasha's team prepared for battle. They used strength-enhancing spells, and Sasha dashed at Crane. However, Crane activated his wind-based ability and slammed her into a rock wall, shocking the team. As he prepared to attack again, someone blocked him. Crane explained that his ability allowed him to manipulate the wind freely, and he demonstrated its power. Sasha acknowledged it was impressive, but claimed it still wouldn't be enough to defeat them. Crane laughed and mocked her, asking what they could possibly do against him. Just then, Crane was attacked from behind. Though he tried to strike back, the team managed to block his move. Together, they launched a combined attack, and Sasha finally managed to land a critical blow. Crane, stunned, fell to one knee. Before they could finish him off, he used a spell to escape. As he vanished into the air, he left behind a chilling threat, promising to kill all their loved ones, destroy their country, and come back to kill them himself. Cress, Manga, Sasha, and her team were seen kneeling before the king inside the royal chamber. Sasha reported the suspicious activities of Crane, stating that he appeared to be plotting something dangerous. After hearing her account, the king summoned Cress and Maiwane to provide their perspectives as well. Once all parties presented their statements, the king praised Sasha's team for their excellent service in completing their assigned mission without failure. He also mentioned that, in contrast, Heiss had failed in his respective task. Sasha appeared visibly shocked upon hearing this comparison. The king then offered Sasha a reward of her choice. Without hesitation, Sasha stood up and requested the approval for her clan's home project. The king smiled, stating that he had anticipated her request and had prepared accordingly. The minister brought forward several scrolls and placed them in front of Sasha's team, allowing them to choose whichever they desired. Sasha expressed her gratitude to both the king and the minister. The minister then shared additional information regarding Heiss's mission. According to the report from Igdora, Heiss successfully obtained the eternal moongrass, but upon learning that Queen Alcera's condition was worsening, he handed it over to the queen's younger sister instead. Despite technically failing the request, His Majesty had decided to reward Heiss for saving a member of the Igdora royal family. However, Heiss had declined the reward. A member of Sasha's team commented that Heiss was still the same unselfish person they knew. The same team member then inquired about Prisia's whereabouts. The minister responded that Prisia had reportedly left Igdora and resumed her life as an adventurer. Furthermore, she had recently started traveling with Heiss. This revelation visibly shocked Sasha and her teammates. The guildmaster informed Heiss that the investigation request into the highest-level dungeon had officially concluded. Heiss, surprised, objected, stating that he and his team had only reached the 60th floor. The guildmaster explained that floors above the 60th had not yet been explored. A public announcement had been made calling for other adventurers to take up the challenge. A female staff member approached Heiss and returned his adventurer's card. Heiss asked about other available high-level dungeon requests, but was informed there were none at the moment. The guildmaster advised Heiss to take a break, even suggesting he go on a date to enjoy his youth. Heiss flatly replied that he wasn't interested and didn't have anyone for that kind of thing. The guildmaster jokingly brought up Prisia, causing Heiss to spit out his tea. He insisted that Prisia wasn't following him out of affection. The conversation shifted as the guildmaster handed Heiss a page, listing rare books he thought Heiss might be interested in. Heiss exited the room with the page in hand. Outside, Prisia was waiting for him. She asked if he was heading to the used book market. Heiss sarcastically asked if she had been eavesdropping again. Prisia smiled and suggested they go their separate ways once they reached the district. Heiss responded indifferently, telling her to do as she pleased. Upon arrival at the commercial district, Prisia split off to handle her own business. Heiss made his way to the bookstore the guildmaster had recommended. While browsing, his eyes landed on a book titled The Adventures of the S-Rank. He wondered aloud if this was the same series as the legendary Geraled, deciding to confirm with the guild later. Just as he reached out to grab the book, Sasha appeared, reaching for the same one. Both were momentarily shocked to see each other. Sasha apologized, but Heiss remained silent. Suddenly, Reynold joined Sasha and noticed Heiss. Heiss asked if they were on a date. Sasha appeared stunned by the question, but Reynold quickly affirmed that they were. Sasha, however, denied it. At that moment, Prisia appeared and asked Heiss if something was wrong. Heiss dismissed the situation and handed her the book. The two left the store to find a place to have tea, leaving Sasha and Reynold behind in silence. While sipping tea, Prisia asked Heiss whether Sasha was his former teammate. Heiss confirmed this, but said that it no longer mattered to him. Prisia then asked if he liked or hated Sasha. In a cold tone, Heiss replied that she once nearly got him killed. Prisia tried to defend Sasha, saying it wasn't true, but Heiss interrupted her and said that regardless, things couldn't return to how they were. A heavy silence followed. Prisia looked at Heiss and wondered silently. Did you ever even try to go back? In an unknown section beyond the 60th floor, Crane was seen killing a dragon. After the kill, he declared loudly that he would kill Sasha and everyone she cared about. He snapped his fingers and smiled maniacally, saying he had just thought of a crazy idea and couldn't wait to see Sasha's reaction. Crane then placed one foot on the dragon's head. Though still alive, the dragon showed clear signs of terror. Crane spoke again. "If you don't want to die, you know exactly what you have to do." He smiled, a twisted, terrifying grin. A month had passed, and the day of the 5 great clans was drawing near. Inside the Adventurers Guild, the gates opened as a young party entered with lively energy. They were called Team 1000, and the guild representative congratulated them for advancing to rank D. Their leader, Thousand Roland, was overjoyed to hear this, though one of his companions quietly scolded him, whispering that their achievement was not his effort alone. The party members introduced themselves. Tina admitted that she had been terrified the first time she entered the guild. Roland, embarrassed, replied that they were still under Sasha's clan anyway. Kua covered her mouth with a laugh and whispered that they all respected Sasha as well, so she understood. Mad added that he too had been nervous at the start. Even Ye agreed with the sentiment. Roland, however, puffed up his chest and declared proudly that it was only a matter of time before their team reached S rank. Kua playfully slapped his back and asked what nonsense he was spouting, and soon the team broke into laughter. At that very moment, the guild doors opened again. A legendary adventurer had returned, the strongest in the world, none other than Heiss. The guild staff thanked him for completing a dangerous quest. Roland, curious, turned to look but immediately shrank back in fear when he met Heiss's cold gaze. Heiss returned equipment recovered from a goblin cave and asked for it to be restored to its rightful owners. The guild staff tried to insist that such treasures now belonged to him, but Heiss rejected them bluntly, saying he had no need for them. When Heiss presented several severed goblin heads, Roland and his team were horrified at the sight, though Roland also thought to himself that Heiss seemed like a good man. The guildmaster appeared and loudly announced that the royal family had summoned all S-rank adventurers, and that Heiss too must attend. Heiss thanked him, left the materials behind for processing, and departed. Team 1000 trembled at the sight of him, though Tina whispered in awe about how cool he looked. Soon after, in the Grand Council chamber, the royal family gathered with the S-rank adventurers and the masters of the great clans. Present were Johanthan, the barbarian clan master; Mamacha, the famed warrior known as the Fighting Mother; Chaos, the Judgment clan master, as well as Sasha and Heiss. The king explained the crisis. B-class monsters were multiplying explosively near a high-level dungeon close to the capital, one Heiss himself had previously investigated. Countless people had already gone missing, and evidence suggested signs of an impending stampede. The hall fell silent at the word. A stampede was a catastrophic event where overbreeding dungeon monsters spilled out in overwhelming numbers, attacking towns and villages. The king asked Gist to explain further. Gist rose and described how monsters had begun appearing on floors far earlier than intended. The Tyrant, a boss normally restricted to the 60th floor, had been sighted as early as the 10th, and monsters from the 40th floor were being forced upward. The displaced early floor monsters were likely already moving toward the royal capital. When asked how many monsters might be involved, Gist recalled that 30 years ago, a stampede at an intermediate-level dungeon had released nearly 20,000 monsters. 3 towns were destroyed and 7 villages wiped off the map. But this time, he warned, the scale was far greater. Because this was a high-level dungeon, no one could accurately predict the number, and the only way to stop a stampede was to exterminate every single monster that emerged. The king ordered Gist to request aid from the neighboring nations' guilds and instructed Bonnet to prepare the royal army. Standing, he declared that this was a crisis unlike any other, and if they did not unite, the nation itself would be lost. Mamacha supported him, saying that tighter coordination among the clans was necessary. Johanthan agreed, emphasizing the need to stand together. Sasha hesitated, then asked whether it might be possible to dive directly to the lowest floor and defeat the boss before the stampede began. Chaos immediately dismissed the idea as impossible. When Sasha pressed, asking how he could be certain without trying, Chaos explained coldly that the monsters inside such dungeons ranked 2 levels higher than normal. Any attempt to reach the bottom would only result in the adventurers being devoured before they ever reached it. When Chaos turned to Heiss, asking for his thoughts, Heiss said nothing. He simply stood and walked out, offering only a single word: Chaos shouted after him, but the king merely laughed, saying Heiss was always as intriguing as ever. Sasha, however, watched in silence, her thoughts lingering on him. 10 days later, after the counter-stampede meeting, the news had spread. The guild suspended all requests, the army was mobilized, and civilians began evacuating. It was confirmed that the stampede would occur within days. As the preparations intensified, Heiss visited an inn and found an old man who refused to evacuate. Heiss asked him why, and the man explained through tears that 30 years ago, during the last stampede, his village was erased from the map. He alone had survived because he was away in the capital, purchasing the inn that his daughter and son-in-law had dreamed of opening. They, along with his grandchild, perished without even leaving behind bodies. Now, as the last survivor, he said he would protect their dream and the inn until the very end. Heiss listened in silence, placing down more coins for the night, despite the old man reminding him he had already paid for breakfast. Heiss simply said that this was for his stay tonight. At last, the day came. In front of the royal capital, an estimated 700,000 monsters appeared. The sight shook soldiers and adventurers alike. Gist's voice rang out, declaring that they must defend their people's land at all costs, even if it meant holding the line against impossible numbers. Some soldiers, terrified, questioned how they could possibly stand against such a horde. Then, a calm but commanding voice told them to stay back. Heiss emerged from the gates of the royal capital, making his entrance with an overwhelming presence, ready to face the storm. Heiss aimed his missile launcher at the monster and fired. The creature was instantly reduced to ash. Without wasting time, Heiss pulled out his M134 machine gun and shouted to everyone to get ready. In just a matter of seconds, he wiped out hundreds of monsters with sheer firepower. Sasha was shocked to witness Heiss's overwhelming ability, and even those who once dismissed him could not help but praise his strength. Acting quickly, she ordered every archer to fire at the flying monsters. Meanwhile, Crane was seen flying above the battlefield, smiling as he caught sight of Sasha. He whispered coldly, "Missy, you'd better not die to the monsters before I get to kill you myself." A strange mark could be seen on the left side of his chest. Observing Heiss's destructive attacks, Crane questioned what kind of weapon he was using. He had expected a much messier fight, not this one-sided slaughter. Other adventurers also joined the battle. Mamacha, wielding her axe, was using her ability of enlargement to cut down goblins. Suddenly, a giant monster crept up behind her, but before she could react, it was slain by Jonathan, whose ability was vibration. Nearby, countless monsters were struck down by poisoned blades, an attack from Chaso, who fought with his poison ability. Heiss noticed all of this, but was forced to react when a sudden attack came his way. He dodged just in time, only to discover that the attack had been launched by Crane himself. Impressed by Heiss's reflexes, Crane smiled. Heiss demanded, "Who the hell are you, ugly?" Crane replied calmly, "Me? I'm the one who started this stampede." Heiss immediately recognized him. "So that appearance, you're the demon Sasha reported about." With another sly smile, Crane whispered, "Huh, so you know that woman? Tell me, why does it matter to you?" Heiss remained silent for a moment before responding, "Why should that concern you?" Crane's expression darkened. "Because everything that woman cares about, I'm going to destroy. And since you're in the way, I'll remove you first. That makes things even better." He cast a spell and launched a powerful magical attack, but Heiss managed to block it, though even he was shocked at its strength. Sasha recognized Crane and whispered, "It's him." She shouted to Reynold that they needed to go after the demon, but before she could advance, goblins blocked her path. With monsters swarming all around, she could not reach Crane. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble. Everyone was stunned as a colossal earth turtle erupted from beneath the battlefield. Adventurers scattered in panic. Sasha clenched her fists, glanced at Heiss and Crane, and decided, "We need to take down that turtle." She left Crane to Heiss. Crane smirked. "Oh my, they abandoned you." Heiss didn't care, and unleashed a barrage of firepower on Crane, but his attacks were stopped by Crane's wind magic. Crane mocked him. Are you dumb or something? If you had a report on me, then you should know my mind powers are strongest in open areas like this. Heiss switched weapons and launched another powerful strike, but the result was the same. None of his bullets could pierce the wind barrier. Crane laughed. That strange ability of yours. It seems like a bad match against mine. It doesn't matter how much firepower you have if you can't even hit me. He created a giant cyclone and roared. Come on, what are you going to do now? He launched multiple attacks at Heiss, who narrowly dodged each strike and returned fire, blocking what he could with his guns. Heiss thought to himself, if only I could do something about that wind. Just then, a hand rested on his shoulder. It was Priscilla. She whispered into his ear, "Let me handle this. Just keep your guns steady like always." Both of them smiled in determination. Heiss aimed once more at Crane, who mocked him again. "As long as my wind shield is up, nothing you throw at me will ever work." Heiss smirked and replied, "Sure, not on my own." Together, Heiss and Priscilla combined their abilities. Using wind magic to break through Crane's shield, they launched a devastating joint attack. The blast struck Crane directly in the head, knocking him to the ground. Priscilla laughed in victory and teased Heiss, "You'd better treat me to some tea later as thanks." Heiss raised an eyebrow and asked, "Is eating all you ever think about?" She only grinned, mentioning that she had found a great restaurant recently. But their moment was interrupted when someone suddenly shouted Sasha's name. She stood in front of the colossal earth turtle, blood dripping from her mouth, barely able to stand.